As next speaker, I would like to welcome Andreas Angelidakis, an architect working between digital culture and architectural production and really mixing the real with the virtual. And of course, the two of you have worked together, no? Miltos and Andreas on the NEEN project, no? The NEEN world, yes.
Yeah, you know, as an architect, I need clients to operate. So Miltos has been my best client so far. Because back in the late 90s, like 97, he had found this online community called Active Worlds, which was kind of the second life of its time, even though it wasn't so successful. And he asked me to make a world there, kind of an art world. So we started this community called Chelsea, and we were selling buildings to museums and giving for free studios to artists. And I kind of, as an architect, I was used to like designing buildings and spaces and stuff. So I started putting my designs on this virtual world, and I kind of saw that it doesn't really work that way, because the internet is a different place, and your client or your visitor is not really a human being, but it's their avatar. So I really had to start to learn how to design for avatars. So what I learned from the Chelsea experience was that people online generally have very short attention span, and if you don't design something that captivates them, they easily go away, and they just click your building and they close it. And then so your buildings have to kind of become like logos, but they also have to stay in your mind. So they have to be very simple and maybe graphic. I mean, that's the recipe for me at least. And they also have to have this other quality that stays in your mind. This world is NEEN world, is a world that Miltos asked me to design for this group of artists that you just saw, the NEEN. And the idea was that I would make for each artist a home, and then some public spaces, and then we'd all just use the internet as a place to hang around and meet, because each one of us was in a different country. This is the home of Mai Ueda, Japanese artist, or NEEN star. Mai was working with this graphic pattern that kind of looks like a flower. So I decided to use that for her building. And then I made that as a rule. For each artist, I took an element of their work and their personality. This is Angelo Plessas. And so with this element, I kind of made a home for them, a portrait in architecture. And Angelo had made this piece with rainbows, so I made a piece with that. And then I realized slowly that the elements of the people I was choosing and their works were also somehow related to nature, so like the flowers and the rainbows. And I was making these pavilions, which I later on developed into kind of other more habitable things, like this house for Angelo that is kind of more buildable or more inhabitable. But I was taking elements from this kind of internet nature and creating homes, like this piece of Raphael Rosenthal, where you kind of delete these clouds. And I was spending tons of time like deleting clouds because I wanted to make my day better. And I was also kind of fascinated by this shape. And I thought maybe I could make some architecture with that too. So first for Raphael, I made this kind of small pavilion in NEEN world, where it was a box where the windows were clouds that left it. And it just gave it some kind of architectural structure. And this, later on for a show in Milan, we even built this as a piece of furniture, a couch for conversations. Later on, Second Life came along, and I started doing my house along the same principle. This is a tube house. It's inspired by a chair of Joe Colombo called Tube Chair. And what I found out in Second Life is that it's a very conservative place. And my neighbor totally hated my house because it didn't really look like a house. So he first said, "Oh, you have to delete this. This is really bad." And then he came over and he kind of pushed me around. I came back the next day and he'd left tons of garbage in the house. And the other guy next door put up a wall to block the view to my house. So I was kind of left with really unfriendly neighbors. So I found that also Second Life is not so open to new ideas. But of course, I don't want to change my strategy. Here I am kind of admiring my masterpiece. Of course, Second Life is very expensive, so I could only afford a really small piece of land. But on a more kind of ambitious level, I took some of these designs and developed them even further. Like from Raphael's Cloud, I decided to make a cloud house. And this is kind of a new series of things that could be called Neen homes. So slowly develop them into more kind of buildable things or buildings. And I also got kind of obsessed with a exposed concrete texture map. So I use that a lot because I really like this. Concrete has this kind of natural quality to it. This kind of, it looks almost like an ancient thing, which the internet doesn't really do. You know, everything kind of looks new there. So I was really interested in how buildings grow old online. And this is a house that kind of develops over time, and I'm like discussing to build a small version of it for a museum. But you know, if any of you internet people want a cloud house, you know, give me a call. This was also a continuation of this idea of including nature into the building in a kind of almost abstract, maybe ecological way. Later, I took one of the designs from Neen World, which was called Blue Wave, and it was the beach of Neen World. It was just these shapes that looked like waves, and the avatars walked on them, and they had fun. And I was invited to a competition for a hotel, so I decided to try and make a really kind of big building with this Neen World module. And this is a kind of hotel that extends this idea of the natural environment as internet, because I'm really interested in the internet not as a new place or a technological advancement, but as a place to hang out. And I think the kids growing up today, they just see the internet as a place to be and nothing else, you know, like a park or a beach or a squat. So this building is all of these things. It's a kind of beach, and it's a place to just spend some time, and there's empty rooms. This could be maybe the horizon on the internet or here or wherever. You know, actually, it's funny, this video was supposed to have music, and somehow it disappeared. I think it's the same, you know, thing that happens with technology every time, that some element has to somehow escape our reality.
Andreas, maybe one question. Hello? The question of distribution is also interesting. The question of distribution.
They don't. You want to
Yes.
come here? Or they turn you up?
They turned me off. Okay, I'll just stand here. No, it's okay. I can just stand here for a moment. The question of distribution, so you have a real relationship, real client relationships, but you also distribute your work through the gallery system, through the contemporary art system. How does this your outlook on the work, or how does this change how people perceive your work and how they use it?
You know, it's kind of difficult because I think people need to describe you in some way, and I always insist I'm an architect. So even if it's a DVD shown in a gallery and sold or whatever, I think it's still architecture. I don't know. I think, you know, architects need clients, and they design things that people can inhabit. So even the definition, I mean, architects always make virtual reality. They create environments, and each kind of well-designed building is a total reality. So I think the role doesn't really change. It's just people have to start treating the internet as a real place, and then there's no even question about what is the role of the architect.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.